Hello everyone, welcome to the Mourning Cup. My name is Dirty Airy, and today's topic will be neo-colonialistic practices as inspired by the French Empire of the 16th century. Many years ago, when the North and South American continents were being colonized by empires from the European continent, those of the Portuguese Empire, Spanish, Dutch, British, and French empires as well. It is the French Empire specifically and their interactions with indigenous peoples that we'll be discussing. Unlike a great many of their counterparts, the French did not engage as heavily in the violent aspect of colonization as, say, the Spanish Empire. Instead, they engaged in a series of trading with indigenous tribes that they encountered. This included the trade of technology such as pots and pans, things to make life a little easier. It also included the trade of substances such as alcohol and sugar, and also trinkets, which actually were used in indigenous burial practices. Over time, these trades that indigenous peoples engaged with the French did create a dependency. When you can use a technology to make your life somewhat easier, over time you engage less in the traditional practice that you used to accomplish the same task with. Physical dependency can be generated from using and consuming substances such as alcohol and sugar. And lastly, a spiritual dependency over a long enough period of time can be developed as indigenous people use trinkets that the French had in surplus for burial practices. Now, once a dependency had set in fully, as indigenous people began to approach the French to receive more technology, substance, and trinket use, the French found themselves in a position where they could simply say, "No, we will not engage with you unless you convert to our religion." Remember, colonization of the New World, as it were, had a very large component of religious conversion, as the church was a massive source of geopolitical power at the time. So as indigenous tribes who had up to this point engaged in trade with the French began to approach and ask for these trinkets and these substances, these technologies, the French would simply say no. And then the indigenous people found themselves at a crossroads wherein they could adopt a set of cultural practices, languages, and religion and spirituality, but they would inevitably need to sacrifice many of their historical practices that they had developed over tens of thousands of years. This is a form of colonization that, although less violent on the outside, resulting in somewhat less bloodshed, was similarly capable of destroying the cultural practice of indigenous persons and creating a reliance upon the French Empire. The question for today asks, has the United States been engaged in a similar form of colonization with China? Is the United States now dependent enough on technologies specifically that we would be prompted to adopt Chinese practice if the Chinese were to suddenly stop selling us iPhones, if we were to suddenly stop being offered any of the products that are developed and sent and traded with the United States from China? Are we in a position right now where we are dependent? Is that dependency to the same level of the indigenous person's dependency to France during their colonization? Are we being colonized? That's the question for today. I hope you enjoyed your cup.